program for the January 2023 session. And as such, we'll be conducting all these counseling sessions from the nodal office at IGNOR Regional Center Vadagara, which is in Kerala. A word about IGNOR Regional Center Vadagara. You are associated with the regional center, which has been awarded the Best Regional Center Award for the year 2022. And we will be there to help you with all academic activities, especially related to counseling. We are happy that we are today joined by RSP Singh sir from the school, who is the program coordinator also, and who has been so helpful to us in all aspects concerning this program. So has been very kind enough to give his expertise as and when it was required. And we are extremely thankful to you, sir. And we wholeheartedly welcome you to this program. We are also thankful to SNIGDHA Singh madam, who has been so kind enough to accept our invitation and be the academic counselor for this program. In the subsequent sessions also, madam will be taking many of the aspects related to the MER program. And it is a proud privilege to welcome you to this program, and we look forward to your continued support in the later sessions as well. We also
Thank you. My pleasure.
We also welcome Dr. Shashi Kumar, Assistant Regional Director from IGNOR Regional Center, Nagpur. Last but not the least, we in fact welcome each and every student who has joined this program today, and who will be joining us later on also. And a couple of things that I would like to announce right at the beginning. One is that the recording of these sessions will be available maybe in a week's time on the YouTube channel of IGNOR Regional Center Vadagara. So anyone who wants to revisit this session can definitely check on our YouTube channel, which is, you can just give a Google search, IGNOR Regional Center Vadagara YouTube channel, and you will get the recording maybe in a week's time. And further, the second thing is that we will also be putting out a link for online attendance. So please take time out to fill your attendance for the session. These are the two important announcements that I would like to make. And without wasting any further time, let me request Dr. RSP Singh for his initial remarks. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Kumar, for inviting me and giving me opportunity. In fact, so just a couple of minutes back, I got the message, things are happening, and so quickly. I think so a week back, we were chatting just to how to organize the things, and just see with your active participations. And I'm very happy to see Dr. SNIGDHA over here. Recently, she is a very good faculty and very deep knowledge about these programs. She is very expert in her discipline. So I look forward that she will clear your doubt and counseling. She's already familiar with our ODL system. So I think so sessions will be go on a very nice way as we looking forward. And moreover, as this program is very close to my heart, as me and Asha, we both of us are the program coordinator. So as a program coordinator, I welcome all our students of this January batch 2023. So this is the initiatives taken by the university to have this counseling sessions of all students. Those who have joined, very much they are welcome. Those who have not joined, I look forward that they should. I think so 9 students. I don't know, 7 or 6 students may be there. So we expect forward maybe other RCs also to pass on this message. This is a very important part of our teaching learning process. Otherwise, afterwards, students miss the things and they keep on writing and asking from each other. So better we convey this message broadly, so that more and more students should join and take advantage of this counseling sessions. So this program is basically semester based. I think so a bit we are late, but still I think so Dr. Rajesh will manage to complete this counseling sessions as per norms, and the students should also actively involved in the counselings. Before coming to the session, they should read their teaching learning materials. Hope they have got it. If they have any problem, please write to us either on Soviet mail, or there is a mail, MER @ignu.ac.in. So me and Asha will try to resolve it. Although first semester courses are printed, and very soon you will get it. If students they have got it, well, fine. Otherwise they will get it, or we also send generally through mail also. So assignments are there, rest things I think so Dr. Rajesh and Snigdha will tell you how the things ODL system is brought. With these words, welcome you all, and good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your presence is very important to us, and we look forward to your involvement in the counseling sessions later on also, as far as your time permits. So thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. I think now we can leave the floor open to Snigdha Madam to take over the proceedings and convene the counseling session. Over to you, ma'am, and welcome. We wholeheartedly welcome you to this session and to the subsequent sessions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's completely been my pleasure to get associated to RC Vatakara, which is in Kerala. So this is my pleasure to be associated with your regional center.
Thank you.
So to start with, good afternoon, everyone. I will quickly acquaint you with the system that I follow for my counseling sessions. I usually try to prepare a presentation, but the notice of these sessions were, quite late. So I have tried my best. The presentations are there for as many blogs as I could, given the short time. And I'm going to mail this presentation to the regional center, and they may circulate it to the students. This is nothing but kind of a revisionary material which might help you during your examinations. So this is like a quick go through uh, to your study material which you already have. So this will, I suppose, help you in your during your examination times. So I'll start with the session formally without wasting much time. So we will be doing MER 001, which is business environment. We have two sessions for this, today's and tomorrow's, and there are four blocks. So I'll try to finish up block 1 and block 2 today, so that 3 and 4 could be taken over tomorrow. So block 1 has some 4 or 5 units. Starting with unit 1, which is dimensions of business environment, I'll quickly acquaint you with the concept of business environment at first. So when we are studying entrepreneurship, when it is about entrepreneurs or their entrepreneurial journey, what matters the most is the environment, the surrounding, the atmosphere in which they are going to operate. So business environment basically deals with the surroundings or with the environment that the business is uh, facing, or has to deal with, or has to explore, or has to uh, make choices from. So that is all that this whole course code will cover. So all the four blocks will discuss about different business environments and the factors and the types of environment that assist, that favors, or that is a threat to the entrepreneurs. So to start with, unit 1 discusses about the dimensions of business environment. So what exactly is business environment? I just gave you the description of the same while giving you an introduction of the topic. Business environment basically is the environment or the surrounding that exists around the business. Now, this environment, this business environment, has particular characteristics which makes it very significant or very relevant for the businesses to understand, to take note of. What are those characteristics? Business environment is highly dynamic and complex. Dynamic in the sense that businesses operate in real time and the environment keeps on changing every now and then. So this is not a static environment in which businesses operate, it keeps on changing. And with that changing environment, the businesses also have to keep in line with. So it is important that they scan the environment that they operate in. It is important that they understand the environment that they are going to operate in. So it is a highly dynamic situation, and it is also very complex. Complex because there are a lot of factors involved in it. There are a lot of factors which affect the environment, business environment. For instance, there might be some technological changes taking place. There might be some legal changes taking place. There might be some political changes taking place. The economy changes. Uh, the natural environment lays an impact on the business environment. So there are a lot of factors involved. These factors actually make it very complex, make the business environment very complex. Business environment is full of opportunities as well as threats. Depends. The same environment can be perceived as an opportunity by some and can be perceived as as a threat for others. So it depends on how you take it. It depends on how prepared were you. It depends on uh, how good were you while you forecasted it or not. So the businesses also have to be prepared for the changes. They have to speculate, they have to forecast as to what changes are going to take place. They can't just wait for the change to take place and then get adapted to it. They have to rather predict. So if you're active, if the businesses are active, if they forecast, the same changes in the environment will act as an opportunity for them because they would be prepared well in advance. Whereas in case they're not prepared and they wish to adapt to the changes that has taken place, then it would be a threat because your competitors would already lie ahead of you. So uh, yeah. So the other, this can be the significance also as well as the characteristics. So this is the significance as well as the characteristics of the business environment. It is dynamic, it is complex, it is multifaceted. Multifaceted means the same, that it can be opportunities, it can be an opportunity for some, and it can be opportunity, it can act as a threat for others. So multifaceted means that the same thing can mean differently to everyone. Okay, so it depends upon your perception, how you take it. It may act as a threat, it may act as an opportunity for you. Business environment has a far reaching impact in the sense that it's going to decide your survival, it's going to decide your growth, it's going to decide your wealth, it's going to decide your profits. It's not just the current situation that you have to deal with, rather its impact, it's far reaching. So why is it important to learn or to analyze or to scan the business environment that an organization is operating in? One, because continuous environmental scanning helps in visualizing the impact that socio-economic or political legal changes are going to have on the business. It requires continuous scanning. Scanning is what? Scanning is basically, environmental scanning is basically continuously studying the business environment. It's basically continuously keeping an eye on what is going to happen around. Okay, it's basically studying or keeping a note of what's happening in the environment. So also, studying business environment or its impact helps in identifying the opportunities and threats for the businesses. I just explained this 2 minutes back, that it depends on how well prepared were you for the changes to take place. If you were prepared well, if you had already forecasted it, then you will have options or choices to deal with it. You'll be prepared to deal with it. It will act as an opportunity. Whereas if you were not prepared, you were just waiting for the changes to take place and then you will get adapted to the change, then it will act as a threat for you because your competitors would have taken ahead, would have gone ahead. Understanding the business environment also helps in identifying firms' strength and weaknesses. Strength and weaknesses in the sense that if you have good technological upgradation available, or whether you have a good hold in the market, or whether you are far ahead your competitors. So all the strengths and weaknesses, how good is your customer base, how loyal are your customers, so all of that can be assessed well. So in a way you can call it SWOT analysis. The business environment helps in SWOT analysis of the business: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. All these four aspects can be known better, can be assessed better, can be evaluated better. It also helps in evaluating the present strategies, formulating long term policies, and developing future strategies to deal with the unseen changes that might just come. It also enables the firm to analyze the competitor strategies and uh, how can the businesses counter their competitor strategies. And it helps to adapt the prevailing conditions in case you were not prepared, or in case something that you had forecasted hasn't happened and something else has come in the forefront. Then you can prepare yourself to get adapted to the prevailing conditions. So all these are the reasons because of which business environment plays an important role in the life of entrepreneurs, or in their journeys, so as to prepare themselves to deal with the market crisis. What are the types of business environment? There are two kinds of business environment: internal environment and the external environment. Internal environment exists within the structure of the organization, within the structure of the business. Structure of the business, as in your VMVO, your values, mission, vision, objectives, the culture that you have, the policies that you have, the strategies that you frame. All the policies, strategies, vision, mission, values, objectives, culture, uh, and the change management policies that the organization have, that the enterprises have, this comprises of the internal environment, something that is in complete charge of the organization. This is in complete control of the organization. If there is a policy, if there is a strategy that has become that is creating obstruction in achieving the goal, they can change it. So the internal environment is completely in control of the businesses, and they may change it, they may alter it, they may modify it as per need. Whereas external environment is something that is beyond the control of the organization. It is something that exists outside the organizational structure. So external environment can further be classified in two parts, two types. One is the micro environment and the other is the macro environment. Micro, as the name suggests, micro as the name suggests, it is these are the individual forces which are very close to the organization and can be controlled to some extent, can be controlled to some extent by the organization, by the businesses. Their impact can be controlled. Okay. Whereas macro environment are the larger forces which have an impact on the businesses, and the businesses in return cannot control, cannot alter, cannot modify it. They have little control over macro environment or macro forces. Okay. For instance, micro environment, the ones which are very close, which are in the close boundary of the business, consists of its customers, intermediaries meaning the wholesalers, the retailers, the agents, which transfer the goods, which help in transferring the goods from the manufacturers to the consumers. So the customers or the intermediaries or the competitors, or let's say the suppliers, the ones who are supplying the raw material, they are the one, those are Those are closely connected to the business environment. Those are closely connected to the businesses, and their impact can be controlled to some extent by the businesses. For instance, if there is a strike in the among the suppliers, the businesses can still utilize their goodwill, their reputation, their long serving reputation with the businesses, and try to get their work done. Okay, they might utilize their good faith, goodwill, reputation with them, and ensure that the current order that is pending gets delivered or something like that. Okay, so they can be controllable to some extent. Whereas the macro environment, which consists of technological upgradation or technological changes or the political changes or the demographic changes or the natural environment, these are completely beyond the control of businesses. Their impact, any impact that economical changes, that technological changes will be laying on the business, will be very difficult to get rid of. Okay, they will get impacted no matter what. Also, there's another difference between micro and macro environment, which is that forces of the micro environment might not affect every firm in the industry. Every firm in the industry. I hope you understand the difference between firm and industry. For instance, shoe industry is an industry, and Bata is a firm over there, or Lakhani is another firm over there. Okay, so several firms of the same category form an industry. Okay, for instance, apparel is an industry, apparel industry or clothing industry, and Zara would just be a firm. Okay, or Arvind Mills would be a firm, that ways. So, when we talk about micro environment forces might affect a particular firm, but it is not sure to affect every firm of the same industry. Or micro forces might affect a particular industry, but not every industry of the country or of the globe. Okay. For example, if let's say uh, if the mills are holding a strike, then every industry of the clothing sector or the apparel sector might face difficulty in obtaining raw materials. But that doesn't mean that shoe industry, that doesn't mean that electronic industry will also face this crisis. No. Okay, so that's how it works. Whereas when it comes to macro environment, every single industry, every single firm will get affected by any change that's taking place. Okay, for instance, if there is a recession, it's sure to impact every industry and every firm, be it electronics, be it shoe, be it apparel, be it clothing, be it uh, paper sector, paper industry, everything will get impacted. So macro environment has has a stable impact or impacts everyone equally, every industry equally, every business equally. It doesn't differentiate, it doesn't discriminate. Everyone will be impacted. Whereas micro environment, because it is controllable, so its impact can also be controllable depending upon the industry to industry or firm to firm. So I hope micro and macro is clear to you. In case you face any difficulty, because I am not using the screen, so you might just unmute yourself and let me know then and there itself. Okay, so I'll proceed further. So the micro environment consists of competitors, customers, the intermediaries as in the wholesalers, retailers, agents, etc. Suppliers, workers, unions. Workers and unions means the employees of the organization. They also impact the organization. What if they go on strike? What if they go on lockout? So the work will be hampered, right? And the general public. The general public can also control the environment of the business to some extent. You might be remembering the case of Tata Nano, what happened in Singur. right? They had to shut down the factory over there and relocate themselves because the general public went on protests. So general public also has a say. For instance, in Maharashtra for the metro project, in the Array area, there is a protest going over there. So the publics also can hamper the way a business is flourishing or working. The macro environment consists of economic environment, recession, uh, exchange rate fluctuations, all these things impact the businesses. Political and legal environment also affects the businesses. For instance, if I tell you, when we these are two separate things, mind you, political environment and legal environment are two separate things, although they are written together. But even then, I will give you an example of both. Let's say political environment. When I talk about political environment, which political party is ruling the nation decides the fates of the businesses to a great extent, because their uh, policies will either be in favor of the businesses or against the businesses. For instance, if we talk about India, we generally say that Congress is more of a government friendly uh, party, whereas government sector friendly party, whereas BJP is more of a business friendly party. So their policies are more inclined towards assisting or making the situations favorable for the businesses, whereas i- in the previous government it was other way out. So political environment lays a major impact on how well the businesses can flourish in the country. When we talk about legal environment, there are certain acts and amendments which are made, which are created so as to assist or to resist their operations. Okay, for instance, FSSAI, Essential Commodities Act, Consumer Protection Act, all these acts. Um, there are several acts. We'll be studying it in Block 2, I suppose. There are several acts. There is Sale of Goods Act. There is Negotiable Instruments Act. So there are a lot of acts which will either assist any change or any creation or any amendment to it, will either assist or uh, resist the businesses, will either make it favorable or unfavorable for the businesses to operate. Socio-cultural environment. Socio-cultural environment, again, these two are different concepts and they affect it differently but are used mostly together. Socio-cultural environment. If I talk about socio-cultural environment, we'll discuss it one by one. If we talk about socio environment means the social environment, or the social groups that form the customer base, that form the employee base, that form the supplier base for the businesses to operate. So the societal norms have an impact on the entrepreneurial journey of businesses. Similarly, the cultural environment, the subculture, the tastes, passion, lifestyle is highly guided by the cultural environment. Is guided by the culture that uh, belongs to the people. So cultural environment also plays an important role in deciding the entrepreneurial journey. Demographic environment. When we talk about demographic environment, we are basically talking about numbers or the sizes. Demographic environment consists of uh, the gender data, the it consists of the population, it consists of the income of the people, it consists of the age of the people. So the age of the people, the income of the people, the gender of the people, they also determine the environment that the business will flourish in. Technological environment, of course, most of the things these days are what? Technological based. rather an amalgamation of technological and human. So there are organizations that are completely based on technological uh, capital. This is the time of AI, you see. So just at a voice note, you can literally do everything or anything, from the hospitality sector to the health sector. AI has had its impact almost everywhere. So the technological environment or the upgradation or the degradation plays a role in the businesses. There's no doubt about it. The international environment, see, international and economic environment are more or less same. Okay. The only difference is when we talk about economic environment, we are talking about the global recession or maybe the inflation, as well as the exchange rate fluctuations, etc. Whereas the additional factor which gets considered in international environment is warlike situations, like currently it is happening between Russia and Ukraine. Okay. um, or let's say the COVID-19 crisis that initiated from China. China had to lose a lot of business, a lot of opportunities, a lot of agreements or contracts because of COVID-19 crisis. A lot of countries have boycotted trade from China. Similarly, the current war situation which is going on between Russia and Ukraine has led to a lot of open business opportunities for other nations. For instance, India, the the export of rice and wheat has increased a lot from India. India has received a lot of orders from African countries, from Egypt, from a lot of other places, because uh, the previous orders which were the orders which were previously fulfilled from these two nations are now getting distributed to other countries. So international environment, that's how plays an important um, role in businesses. Natural environment consists of natural calamities. For instance, if there's some cyclone, if there is some uh, flood, drought like situation in a country, then, or in a state or any place, then it greatly affects the business environment that the country used to flourish in. So these are the forces of macro environment. Now, what are the emerging situations? What are the emerging scenario of business environment in India? So if we talk about the emerging scenario, the current um just a second, the current situation or the current atmosphere that governs Indian business environment consists of political uncertainty. India being one of the largest democracy, there is a lot of political instability here. There are governments formed on the basis of coalition, and then there is a trend to change that norm, and there are a lot of ad hoc uh, economic policies. Then there are certain political compulsions that hover around the Indian business environment right now. So there's too much of political uncertainty right now. Globalization. When we talk about globalization, see, pre 1991, when the new economic policy was not there, most of the businesses were, um, you know, locally operated or were under the control of the government. But now, with globalization in the forefront, uh, there is reduction in the tariff rate. There are more MNCs, multinational corporations. There are several transnational corporations which are operating in the India. Rather, there are hardly any which are not there. You know, you can literally count them on fingers. So, uh, they have, I mean, Indian business environment or the business environment here has now what global exposure. So there's more competition. There is cheaper goods available, and there is cutthroat competition. Economic liberalization pre 1991, there wasn't any. At that point of time, there were a lot of licenses required. There were a lot of reservations on the entries of the on the entry of the private sectors. But post 1991, India has liberalized itself economically, right? There is liberalization, there is privatization. Uh, MRTP Act has been quashed, which restricted which had monopoly restrictive trade practices. So SEBI has come in play, and therefore there is more transparent trade that's been taking place. There is technological revolution. India, even if is not able to lead the world in technology, yet they are, uh, you know, like uh, catching up. In the sense, in case they are not able to spend too much on research and development uh, and come with new technologies, yet they are keeping themselves upgraded with the help of importing technology. Okay, so there is technological revolution taking place everywhere, and India is trying to catch up with the same. Especially if we talk about the automobile sector, right? Automobile sector, if we talk about it, or let's say the BPOs and the KPOs, India is really trying to catch up. Outsourcing. Outsourcing is what? When a particular activity of the business is outsourced to a specialized party so that the core team of the organization can focus on its main activity, which is production or manufacturing or delivering of a service. So outsourcing has been taking place. uh, if you know, there are companies which are outsourcing their advertisements. There are companies which are outsourcing their marketing activities. There are companies which are outsourcing their raw materials. So outsourcing has been in trend for quite a few decades now in India. Emerging rural market, there's no denying the fact that, you know, most of the Indian population resides in rural areas. Now, these rural areas did not have much of consumerism previously, but now they're becoming aware, they're becoming materialistic, and therefore a lot of demand exists in the rural market. So, the rural market of India is emerging. And then the stakeholders' expectations. Stakeholders have become quite aware, they've become quite updated. They are um, they have reach to the minute to minute information of the businesses because of technological advancement, and therefore their expectations about the performance of the business, their expectation about the return that they expect from the businesses has also increased. So that is stakeholders expectations. Now, sorry. So, um, next, environmental scanning. So, what exactly is environmental scanning? Environmental scanning, I had discussed just a few slides back. That environmental scanning is basically studying or understanding the business environment, continuously monitoring the business environment. What is the need for environmental scanning? Basically, scanning provides a complete analysis of the current and the potential changes that might take place in the environment. It also provides inputs with strategic decision making, and it also facilitates the organization uh, in strategically devising its moves, or it affects in framing strategies, you can say. So that is why environmental scanning is needed in every organization. Okay. What are the characteristics of environmental scanning? Environmental scanning is a holistic exercise. Holistic exercise means that you have to take the total view of the environment. You cannot do environmental scanning in piecemeal. You cannot do it in parts. You have to analyze the overall trend. You have to analyze every single component of the environment. Okay, you cannot select a certain component or few components and analyze only those. You have to do it for the whole environment. You have to take the total view of the environment. Environmental scanning must be a continuous process because environment keeps on changing every now and then. So scanning also should be done every now and then. It is a heuristic or exploratory process. Exploratory process in the sense that it wishes to explore. Scanning is meant to explore. It seeks to explore. Explore what? Something that is unknown, something that is uncertain. Certain unknown and a few unknown and uncertain dimensions of the futures or of what lies ahead for the company. Companies need to predict, continuously predict as to what can happen in the future and how the same could be translated to favor the organization. So that's the characteristic of environmental scanning. What are the various approaches to environmental scanning? Okay, so this is another dimension as to how the environmental scanning can be done. So environmental scanning, environment can be scanned in three ways. One is the systematic approach. Under systematic approach, you develop a particular system. You make it you put it on automation mode. You develop a particular system and you implement it so that there is continuous flow of information or collection of information in a scientific way, in a scientific and logical or rational way. So this is a more authentic, or this is the most rational or systematic way, or logical way, scientific way of scanning the environment. This is mostly preferred by organization. This is the most popular one, and gives the most reliable data or the most reliable information. Ad hoc approach. Ad hoc means some sort of temporary arrangement. Okay, so under ad hoc approach, certain special surveys or studies are conducted so as to figure out information, so as to find out information or collect data from time to time. So ad hoc approach is not a full-fledged automated system that could be put in place. It rather uh, conducts surveys and studies from time to time. Okay. Processed form approach. Processed form approach is when the organization, rather than indulging into collecting information on its own, prefers to collect information from published sources, from already available sources, sources which are there inside or outside the organization. Okay, such sources could be any um government. Such sources could be any government provided data or any private institutions, any data or publishments by the private institutions. So those are used so as to scan the environment. What is the process of environmental scanning? Environmental scanning has a particular set of steps to be followed, which appear in a sequence, which is a 6 step process. What are these processes? At first, to identify the key environment variables. While figuring out the key environment variables, uh, the organizations try to find out such variables which actually impact or is capable of impacting the business. See, there are a lot of variables that we spoke about, micro environment factors, macro environment forces, but not all of them will affect or impact all of the organizations. So there would be certain key variables or key forces or key factors that will be impacting a particular organization. So all those organizations need to figure out uh, which are those variables that impacts it most heavily. So the organizations, every organization or every business needs to find out which are the key environmental variables which will have a major impact on its business. Then the second stage is to identify. I'm sorry. The second the second step is to identify such sources of information that can be useful for scanning the environment. So these information, these inputs can be collected from different sources. Such sources could be formal also, it could be informal also, it could be written also, it could be verbal also. These can be collected from either company files or documents, or can be collected from certain databases, or it can be collected from the employees of the company, or it could be collected from some government publications, newspapers, magazines, journals, newsletters, annual reports, mass medias like radio, television, internet, anything. Collecting the information which could be helpful for environmental scanning. Next, finding out which approach to be taken for environmental scanning. So, see, in the last slide, we studied about 3 approaches. For different companies, different approaches will be useful. For large organizations, systematic approaches are preferred mostly, or processed form. For smaller businesses, they usually prefer ad hoc approach. For certain changes in the environment that is going to affect them heavily, they use a survey method or an ad hoc approach. So figuring out which approach to adapt to follow for environment scanning is the third step. The fourth step is finding out what techniques of environmental scanning is to be used. Techniques could be qualitative also, quantitative also. It could be intuitive methods also. It could be, you know, anything, simulation. It could be some expert opinion. It could be some modeling. It could be some cross impact analysis or any other forecasting technique for scanning the environment. What technique are you going to forecast? Are you going to, cross simulate? Are you going to do some morphological analysis? Anything could be used for environmental scanning. Now what technique is a particular business going to use, that needs to be decided. Factors affecting environmental scanning are to be figured out, as in we've discussed about the factors. We just discussed about the factors. What factors, as in um whether certain trends or certain issues or certain expectations will impact the organization. heavily or not, will be favorable or not. So those need to be decided. And then finally, preparation of ETOP, environmental threat and opportunity profile. What could be the threat for a particular firm or for a particular business, and what could be the opportunities for the same? That needs to be prepared. So this is the process of environmental scanning. So with this, we finish Unit 1. I hope it was clear to all. See, I know that Unit 1 took a little longer time, but that's because, I wanted to focus much on it. Reason being because this consists of the basic uh, details of the whole subject. So once you're through with the concept, basic concept, all the other chapters that is going to follow is nothing but every factor of micro and macro environment has been explained in each chapter. So once you're through with the basic concept, rest chapters to follow only have the factors explained here. So any questions before I start the next unit? Any queries? No. So I
I
see.
think I think we can proceed, madam, because uh, people are just coming in and going, maybe because of some net problem. So
Yes, sir. I can see this. I think only one student,
one
Sachin, you
student is
only
there
have.
right now,
Okay, never
but
mind. You're anyway recording it and you're going to
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure,
take your
sure, ma'am.
answers. It's
That's
okay.
what.
Okay. So I'll continue with Unit 2 now.
Sure, sure, ma'am.
Okay. So now that we've done Unit 1 in detail, all the following chapters are discussing only a particular factor. For instance, Unit 2 is discussing the socio-culture environment. Now, what does socio-culture environment consists of? So, in this chapter, you will learn about the socio-culture environment, the demographic factors, and the issues related to consumerism. So, to proceed further, to understand first what exactly is culture. Culture consists of both material as well as non material. It consists of the knowledge and beliefs or the ideals or preferences that an individual follows. So the knowledge, belief, ideals, or preferences of an individual is greatly shaped by the culture they come from. That's how socio-culture or culture plays an important role in shaping the lifestyle or the social values of the people, in the growing consumerism that is taking place all over the world, and the major social problems that are occurring also are because of the impact of socio-cultural environment. So um, here there's a comparison between how the socio-cultural factors of Japan and India are different or are related, and you can go through this in the book. This is not very relevant over here. Certain critical elements of socio-cultural environment. Socio-cultural environment consists of social institutions and systems that shape the values, perceptions that an individual have. It consists of social groups, right from our families to our neighbors to our formal and informal groups. It has certain social values and attitudes that keeps on passing from one generation to the other generation, from one person to the other person. It is also the social responsibility of businesses to take care or to mind the social or cultural environment that surrounds the business. It is not just the businesses but also the government that has a role to play, that has a responsibility to assume when it comes to taking care of the elements of socio-cultural environment. What is demographic environment? Demographic environment consists mostly of the population, the size of the population, the age of the population, the income of the population, the gender of the population, and how that quantity, that size, that age, that number impacts the quality aspects of the business environment. Dualism in India and the problem of uneven income distribution. So, dualism in India means that there are two different states which exists at the same time. The dualism in the sense that in India we have two different kind of population that can clearly be differentiated at any point of time. One is the rich India, which consists of affluent group of people. They have a luxurious life. There is hardly anything that they do not have access to, whereas the other India that we talk about consists of poor India, who strive to achieve even their basic needs. So the pattern of income distribution in India is uneven, owing to which the rich is becoming richer and the poor is becoming poorer. So there is dualism in Indian economy, which again impacts the business environment. So they have to decide. The businesses now have to decide whether they are going to cater to the richer India or whether they are going to cater to the poorer India, because there is vast difference between the income, between the attitude, between the lifestyle of both. So one product or one service of any business cannot cater to both. So there is a choice to be made even for the businesses. Consumerism in India. Consumerism means the weight that the consumer brings with himself or herself, in the sense how powerful they are. So you must have read in the shops, in the uh, in the stores, you must have seen that consumer is god. You must have read that they display usually at the reception or somewhere at the center place. Consumer is god. So previously, such was not the situation. Previously, consumers were not given this importance. They were mostly fooled. They were mostly served whatever was produced. But now, with
Madam, you are muted.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Just for a moment of two only.
Okay, okay. So previously, such was not the situation. There was a time when consumers were not given that weight in the market. There was a time when consumers were served whatever was produced, whatever was manufactured by the makers. They did not have choices, they did not have options. There was lack of awareness, there was mostly illiteracy. So, but now the situation has completely reversed. Consumers are much aware, they're educated. Owing to the awareness that they have, there has been a world consumer movement. Consumers are now demanding for their rights. They want to have choices and they pretty well exercise their choices as well. So now in India also there is, Consumer Protection Act 1986, and that Consumer Protection Act provides these six rights to the consumers, one being the right of safety. Right of safety, as in no goods can harm them. They have a right to save themselves from the cheating sellers, from the sellers who are trying to cheat them, either with the products or with the deliveries or with the after sale services, anything. Right to be informed, then they have a right to be informed about what are they producing, what are they purchasing, what are they getting for the value that they are paying. That's the reason, uh, every product or services now comes with proper description of the ingredients or the services that are going to be provided. Right to choose, no product or service should be forced upon them. They are free to exercise their choice. The right to be heard, right to be heard as in, uh, right to be heard as in, uh, what is it that they want, what is their need. The manufacturer should first assess the needs of the consumers and then produce goods which is demanded by them, which is required by them, which is needed by them. So that is right to be heard. Right to redressal, right to see to redressal in case they've been cheated upon. They have, they should have every right to get their grievance addressed. And then right to consumer education, consumers should also get educated. They should be given demonstration. There are products which comes with proper description as to how to use, how to apply. So these are the basic six rights which are granted to the consumers by the Consumer Protection Act 1986. So this is all about unit 2. It basically deals about socio-cultural environment that surrounds the businesses. Coming to Unit 3, what are the social responsibilities of businesses? Under this chapter, we will be studying uh, what is the concept of social responsibility, why is it relevant, why is it important for the businesses to have an understanding of the same or to cater to its social responsibility, and about social reporting, social accounting, social auditing, etc. etc. So, what exactly is social responsibility? See, in general, business derives everything from the society. They derive their profit from the society. They derive their land, building, machinery from the society. They derive raw materials from the society. So they take a lot from the society, and therefore it is expected out of them to also give back to the society. So that is what is social responsibility. Social responsibility refers to the obligation of the business enterprises to adapt policies and plans of action which are desirable in terms of expectations and interests of the society. So, uh, see, two decades back, if we talk about social responsibility, wasn't made compulsory for the businesses. They were free to operate in the way they wanted. They did not have to take care of the society as an obligation. Okay, they were only looked upon as only traders, or the business was their occupation, and it was only production, purchase, sale, or to make profit which was looked as their work. But now, 2 decades, if we go 2 decades back, a lot of awareness has been uh, spread among the general public, and in return the government has passed certain regulations under which now all the businesses have to compulsorily contribute to the society. They have to contribute in either way to the society. They might choose, their ways may be different, but a particular percentage of their turnover, of their profit, is to be invested by the businesses in the social development. So now, owing to the uh, awareness, owing to the education, public in general has demanded, and government in particular has implemented certain cases or certain acts which makes it compulsory for the businesses or enterprises to contribute to the society. This can be in the form of, girl education or orphanage or planting of trees or social impanel, sorry, installation of social solar impaneling. It can be in the form of, health awareness, run for health, health marathon, cancer awareness, health. It could be in any form, but they have to spend a particular percentage of their turnover on society. So, what are the cases for which social responsibility of businesses have been arisen at first? So, the first ground being that corporations are made because of the society, they are creatures of the society, and therefore they should be responding to the demands of the society. As an organization expands its activities, there is increasing public interest in the policies and its actions, and therefore they have to be very conscious about their activities or their contributions to the social activities. Any business activity involving society either negates or promotes human values in some way. So that has to be taken note by the organizations now. Promoting is okay, but negating any of the human values are not tolerated anymore. Economic efficiency is not something that is looked upon by the consumers, by the society, by the public at large. They look for something else. They look for something beyond the economic efficiency, beyond how much profit any organization is making. Also, to make the organizations realize that they need to commit to support socially responsive activities. And the shareholders also have a passive role and are not involved in most key decisions of the company. So you cannot take the excuse that, we have to take care of the stakeholders' interest and we need to pay more of dividend. So that excuse also gets eloped now. What are the dimensions of social responsibility? You have a responsibility towards the shareholders and towards the owners. Therefore, there should not be any malpractices happening in the organization. There should be no window dressing. You have responsibility towards the employees. So you have to create ESOP. You have to, give them bonuses. You have to give them welfare facilities. You have to give them uh, healthcare facilities, etc., etc. Enterprises or businesses also have responsibility towards consumer. That's why you need to educate them. You need to give them. You do not have to give them adulterated products. You have to give them products which are healthy for them. You have to give them products which are uh, healthy for the planet in general. That is why, recycled plastics are mostly used. Paper has been replacing plastic, so on and so forth. There's more of organic products which are coming to the market. Responsibility towards the government. As an organization, you have certain responsibility towards the organization, towards the government also. You have to pay your taxes on time. You have to assist the government in general welfare of the public and in general welfare of the country, and that is why you have to contribute. It is not just the responsibility of the government, it is also the responsibility of the businesses to uh, take care of the welfare activities of the society. And then you have a responsibility towards the community and the public at large. Therefore, you must have come across this advertisement of Procter and Gamble, PNG, where Anupam Kher comes and says that, every for every product that you purchase, either Tide, Pantene, Head and Shoulder, 1 rupees get contributed to the education of some rural girl child. Okay, so to the education of some rural girl child. So that's how, even for the community and for the public at large, you have to organize certain welfare activities, or you have some social responsibilities that needs to be looked upon. Social responsibilities reporting, you also need to disclose, you also need to uh, put it in public as to what social responsibilities activities have you taken place, have you complied with, have you taken care of. So it needs to be reported. Social accounting is basically wherein you systematically assess and report those activities of the companies that have actually had some social impact, either on the environment, or on the resources that the company is organizing, or on general public, or on the health and hygiene, or education and training, etc., etc. So social accounting is basically systematically assessing and reporting of certain activities which have had a social impact. What are the approaches to social accounting and reporting? You have to value the social costs and the social benefits. Social costs as in how much have you exploited the society, how much have you taken from the society, and social benefits as in what have you contributed to the society. So that needs to be valued, that needs to be assessed. And then measuring the worth of social investments, the investments that you've done, the social investments that you've made, are they even going to have an actual or real impact anywhere? So that needs to be measured. Developing social indicators which can actually uh, show whether there has been some actual contribution or not. Social indicators, for instance, happiness index, for instance, mortality index, etc., etc. So indicators needs to be developed which could prove whether some social changes have been taking place or not, whether some social problems have been taken care of or not. Social goal accounting and reporting. So you can't just go haywire and think of contributing to the society. Rather, a social goal needs to be framed by the enterprise, and whether that goal has been fulfilled or not, that needs to be accounted and reported. Integral welfare approach. So an overall welfare of the society has happened or not, that needs to be figured out. Social audit. Social audit is the process which involves a retrospective review of the impact or contribution of a company to the recognized social dimensions. Those dimensions which have been recognized by the organization, or have been recognized by the government, or has been recognized by the public, whether some contribution in actual has been made by the enterprise or not. So that is what is social audit. You might claim it in your books, you might claim it in your publications, but whether it has actually happened or not, that needs to be assessed. So that is about unit third. Quickly finishing up unit fourth, which consists of political environment. I've already discussed this during unit one itself. I give you an example of political environment as well as a legal environment. So this unit consists of what are the critical elements, the nature of state responses to social issues, the fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, etc., etc. So most of it need not be focused here, because in just 4 hours and 2 sessions, it is not practically possible to touch every single unit of your course. But with an intention of covering most of the aspects of it, with an intention of covering most of the aspects of it, I am going to skip the fundamental rights and DPSP thing, because I hope you've already read it in your senior secondary education and things like that. So you can do it on your own. There's no concept involved. This is rather uh, this is rather some principles or some certain rights which are instated, and you can just go through it on your own. So I'll deal with just how political environment or the critical elements of the political environment that impacts the business environment. So political environment means the political conditions or the factors or forces which have an impact or which bear impact on the business activities. Okay, political party which comes in rule impacts the businesses with its political ideologies, with its political backing, the background, and its power alignments and alliances. So, what are the elements of political involvement? There is a political system, political process, stability of the political structure, and center state relations. So, see, few of them, these are all general and you can figure it out on your own. If the political party that is in power in the center, the same political party obtains power even in the state, then the functioning becomes very smooth. Then the alliances and the coalitions become very smooth. The budgets can be approved of very smoothly. You know, the policies could be implemented very smoothly. But if in the center there is another political party, whereas in the state there is another political party, then there are tussles. The public is the one which has to suffer most of the time, right? The budget doesn't get approved, the state gets ignored, so on and so forth. So, center state relations lay an impact on the business environment. Stability of the how does this impact the business environment? Because there are certain policies for the entrepreneurs or for the businesses, facilitating policies that the center makes and the state also frames. Okay, so both of them on their individual level and also together has certain policies to facilitate entrepreneurs. So in such cases, if there are certain facilitating policies from the center and I'm not able to avail it owing to the fact that my state doesn't have the same uh, political party, then it affects you greatly or heavily. So this is how center state relations affect business environment. Similarly, the stability of political structure. If the government changes within the even before the completion of 5 years in a state or even in the center, then the policies which were framed previously by the previous government might not be in place now. The political process, how lengthy is the process or how smooth is the process, how transparent is the process, that impacts the functioning of the business environment. And the political system, how stable or unstable the system is. State and social process, the secularism, uniform civil code, minority rights, disparities, and reservation, all of it impacts the business environment to some extent. And then the constitutional provisions relevant to the political process, fundamental rights, and DPSP. These are something that you can do on your own. The six rights, the six fundamental rights to equality, freedom of speech, expression, exploitation, conscience and profession, etc., etc., can be done. What is the role of government when it comes to entrepreneurial environment or facilitating? So the government has a regulatory role. It regulates the processes, the functions, or the policies for the business environment. It has promotional role. It promotes businesses. It represents them. It facilitates them. Promotes where even um, in the international conferences or meeting that takes place, government gives a lot of subsidies to the enterprises. Then there is special economic zone, the SEZs. So there are a lot of ways in which government can promote enterprises or entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurial role. Government also has an entrepreneurial role, plays an entrepreneurial role in the sense that, uh, it funds certain enterprises if those are established with the objective of welfare of the society, or if it is established with certain objectives that government wants to promote right now. For instance, make in India project. So, if there is an enterprise which wishes to start making something, then the government is going to what? Give them fund. The government is going to give them fund, give them land, give them a lot of other facilities, tax exemptions, planning role. The government can plan as to how the enterprises or the businesses will flourish in the organization, in the country. And then how the role of government is changing in the market economy. uh, Industrial licensing has been created, capital issues of private corporate sectors have been initiated, controlled. There is no reservation for public sector in small scale. All these were the features which were pre 1991 and post 1991. After the implementation of the new economic policy, these have been regulated and made favorable for the businesses to operate. So they've abolished the licensing, they've repealed the Capital Issues Control Act, there is removal from the threshold limit of assets, there is approval of foreign direct investment, FDIs, etc. etc. So, with this, we finish block one. And in the next session, which is tomorrow, we will try to finish up cover as much as blocks we can. At least two of the blocks I think I'll be able to cover, because unit one took a longer time today since it was about the basics, so it had to be given more time. So, in case of any queries, just let me know.
Yeah, I think Mr. Sachin Kumar is there. Sachin, do you have any query? Okay. But I think basically your presentation was very clear, ma'am. For me personally, it took me back to
Excuse
my
me,
economics classes. Yeah.
excuse me,
Mr.
sir.
Sachin, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah, sir, just I want to ask something about sociocultural environment. In
Okay.
the
Yes, yes.
in the sociocultural environment, we have only discussed that features and the significance, weather factors. These all are related to society, but the cultural, how the culture, how the traditional culture or the social culture affect the business environment of the business environment.
So, Sachin, I will answer your query. See, because I have made the slides straight from your book, so it did not contain much of the uh, cultural impacts. That's why it was not there in the slide. But yet, I'll answer to your query. How the culture impacts the business environment. Culture actually frames the culture actually frames the lifestyle, the taste, the fashion, the habits of people, and that is how the businesses will get to know as to what product or what services are actually to be provided to them. One, secondly, it is also culture that determines how the marketing activities or the advertisement will be taken care of. Okay, so there are a
Yeah,
lot of times when see, the advertisements can be misleading to the culture and people can get offended, and it hampers the business adversely. For instance, I'll give you an example. See, Fair and Lovely. Okay, Fair and Lovely
yeah,
is
yeah,
a product which was sold by the name of Fair and Lovely, and it was only in India that they could sell it with the name of Fair and Lovely. Had it been abroad, they would have been sued long back. Okay, and at India
yeah,
also, even in India, what happened at the end of the day, they had to change their name and rename it to Glow and Lovely, because they were actually hampering. Uh, in India it is still okay, but you must be knowing that in abroad there is more of racial discrimination, the blacks and the whites in the US, in the America. So they would have not allowed it
Yes.
even from the beginning. Okay. For instance, the advertisements of the deodorants, okay, that you see,
Yeah.
of that of Axe, that of Denver, these are workable here. People are yet not protesting in a way that they should be, but all these companies, even Axe for that matter of reason, cannot afford to put this advertisement, or even Park Avenue or Wildstone or any of them in any other country, because there it is more about women empowerment. They'll get offended with the kind of advertisements that they're playing. So that is how the culture affects. Okay. For
Yes.
example, Wix is this brand which, when started selling its product in Germany with the same name, Wix in German means something which is offensive to them, and therefore they
Yeah.
had to relaunch themselves by bringing their whole thing down. Okay. So that's our culture. For example, McDonald's. Do you know that McDonald's doesn't make any doesn't sell veg burgers? The concept of veg burger is not existent anywhere outside India. Now in Asian countries they've started somewhere because of tourism, but otherwise previously McDonald's didn't used to sell it. Okay. Their most popular burgers are the beef burgers, but they did a study, a research here in India, and they figured out that Indians actually worship cow, and we would be boycotted if we serve beef burgers over here. So that's how culture impacts business environment. All these examples that I gave you is basically with the purpose of explaining that how culture lays an impact on business environment. They impact not just the product or the service that they serve, but also the marketing, advertisement, everything.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, one more query
Please.
regarding unit one. Regarding unit one. As,
Mhm.
as you have told about the modern scenario in India, I just wanted one more time about the demographic factors. How
Sorry.
demographic how demographic factor affect the modern scenario of India. You have uh,
Okay.
pointed
How
out in
demographic,
modern
how
scenario.
demographic sector affects? See, in demographic,
Yeah,
I told you it's about the size or it's about the number, right? So when we
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
the size or the number of the gender, or the size of
yeah,
the population, or the size or the age of the population. So
yeah,
previously, what happened in India, if I talk about business enterprise or business environment specifically, if I talk about businesses in
yeah,
general, previously what happened, I'll give you an example of two, three cases as I may. I'll give you about income. Okay. So
yeah, yeah,
previously it was only one member of the family who would earn. That would mostly be the male. Okay. Male person in the
yeah,
family. So they would be the deciding person in cases of purchases, in cases of any products or services to be brought, to be purchased, right? Whereas now,
yeah,
both people earning, both spouses earning in most of the families, uh, the decision rests with both the partners. In fact, mostly with female. Now you see most of the shopping that happens in your house, even for the basic grocery or for the FMCG goods, must be done by your mother or by your wives. So even if it has to be
yeah,
consumed by you or your father or your child, it is brought in by the lady, right? So
yeah,
the income, it is the impact of the gender or the income or the exposure that they've been given over the years, right? When we talk about age of the population, you see, it is only possible, it has only been possible in the last 2 decades that all these advertisements of automobiles, be it for a bike or be it for a four wheeler, are features kids, because now kids have a greater say in what vehicle is to be brought, you know. So the
yeah,
age,
yeah,
also impacts a lot. So even the kids have a say in what is to be purchased, what color do we need, what model do we need. So I think for generally for a middle class or for a lower middle class, this is the biggest purchase, this is the biggest asset that they purchase in their lifetime, right? And this
Yeah.
asset, which is the biggest one for them, the decision has a major the decision has a major role to be played by the kids, by the minors. So those advertisements are actually targeted to them so that they could force their,
Yeah.
right? So the demographics, the age, size, income of the population is actually shaping how the business environment will flourish. For instance, I'll give you an example. Recently, I think it was Complan or Bonvita. I'm forgetting somehow. Sorry, but either of these two, you can search online. Either of these two had to literally give a compensation to a teenage girl because she complained that why do they always advertise about a boy? Why does their advertisement or their ingredients or even the labeling mentions him, his, he? Is it not meant for female? And then the father appealed to the consumer code that this brand is particularly offending to the female population, to the female children. And then either of this company, whatever it is, either Complan or Bonvita, they not only paid the compensation but also complement they they took the responsibility of the education of the child till she attains the age of 18. That's how the gender or the population or age is impact or income is impacting the business environment. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That's all for today's class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. The two questions were
Thanks.
really very good, and I'm sure that there will be more questions and involvement from you and others in the coming sessions. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that very good session. In fact, as I was mentioning before, in fact, you took me also back to the economics classes which we had earlier in our student days, and it was wonderful to revisit these areas. And it's such a simplistic as well as highly educative manner you have been able to explain all the matters to us. So thank you, ma'am, and definitely we will meet tomorrow at the same time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and meet you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay.